During my 44 years of trials and mortal existence, I have begun to grasp a stark reality of truth, that through some of the deepest, darkest fears of night can often come some of the brightest lights of comprehension in our lives. Now, the occupation of fatherhood often requires some form of sacrifice, and working the obscure midnight hours of night shift work is often a ransom that a father has to pay in order to benefit his family. Now, I have been a night shift truck driver for nearly 23 years, and it has been the lifeblood of income and stability for my family. And initially, my adulthood career plans never included driving a truck, 18-wheel truck no less, on endless miles of highway. However, as I became a father, I felt an increasing familial need to provide for my family. And in the summer of 1996, I initially took a job at a company called That's Trucking. Now, I was offered a part-time dock worker position so that I could pay for my way through college. But soon, as time went on, I was offered a full-time position to drive a truck route. And this offer included a significant increase in wage and 401k and insurance benefits. And through prayerful pondering with the family and with encouragement, I decided to forego my education and take the job. Now, this job required a nightly route that went from Pocatello to Salt Lake, back to Pocatello, with the option of going to Twin Falls and back if it was required. If I were to do that whole route, it's 574 miles in total per night. Now, as with any new job, most of your abilities are obtained and you gain them through personal experience. My first few years of driving gave me a lot of that experience through winter driving and through the road rage of Salt Lake City traffic. Now, soon my confidence became high and I felt comfortable driving a truck. However, on the harsh winter of 1999, there came a situation that became the hardest test of my driving abilities I have ever experienced. And particularly the night of February 19th, 1999. This was a storm of legendary status that went on the record books as having the most snow in one single night. During my initial drive to Salt Lake, I forced my way between snow drifts and glaring roads of ice, while trying to manage my increasing fears and doubts of safety on this particular trip home from Salt Lake towards Pocatello. Eventually, my grueling adventure ended, and I was looking towards getting home and putting this to bed. Unfortunately, as Murphy's Law would have it, of course, I received a phone call from my dispatcher telling me that I had to go on the extended trip to Twin Falls. Desperate to get the night over with, I reluctantly told the dispatcher, of course, sure, I'll do it. But as I concluded my phone call, I got a twinge of doubt and feeling in my mind. Was it fear? Was it extreme exhaustion? Or was it entirely something different? I eventually passed it off as exhaustion and leftover stress from my trip to Salt Lake, and I began to make preparations to go to Twin Falls. Well, during my preparations of going to Twin Falls, I experienced another twinge of doubt enter my mind. However, this time there was an added element. There was a whispering voice that began impressing upon my mind that I should not go. Now, I was in a dilemma. I had never been faced with making spiritual decisions at work and in this type of setting. And after some careful contemplating, I called my dispatcher and explained my fears and my doubts of the road conditions. And in a voice saturated with sarcasm, my dispatcher said that I had to go and it was imperative that I get the freight to Twin Falls. And that questions of my abilities to drive in these kind of conditions would certainly be evaluated later. Now, my fears of treacherous road conditions rapidly vanished and were replaced with fears of job loss and reputation. With confused feelings, I proceeded down the road towards my destination, again with an ever-increasing voice whispering in my ear, "Do not go." My mounting fears began to override my senses. I repeatedly thought, what was I going to do? And soon I found relief as I came upon the entrance to the freeway and it was blocked by a road closed sign. With relief, I called my dispatcher and explained the situation. However, my dispatcher was not as pleased as I was with the answer to my dilemma. He, after looking at a map, told me to take a frontage road and find an alternate route to get on the freeway. With a fearful and ever-increasing whispering of warning assailing my ears from what now I recognized as the Holy Ghost, I still proceeded onward. Now, there were many warnings I immediately noticed as I entered the freeway. I noticed the mirrored reflection of my headlights shining like frozen balls of light on the freeway. I noticed the deafening wind as it found its way through the weak spots and gaps in my cab of my truck. And I had noticed the ominous sign painted on the side of a red barn that literally said, "Welcome to Windy Acres." But most of all, I noticed a powerful voice now impeding every thought. Do not go. My moment of light and comprehension finally came at 2:15 a.m. In a combination of exhaustive struggling to control my truck on black ice and through a wind-driven blizzard, my driving abilities were hindered. Overcome by impossible circumstances, my choice to remain upright and safe on the ice-laden road was taken from me by overwhelming odds of misfortune. At mile marker 44 on Interstate I-86, my tractor was violently shoved into the median. As my tractor trailer and I began to roll over, I said with a loud voice, with what I thought were my final words, "I should have listened. I'm sorry. Please protect my family. I should not have gone." I fell into unconsciousness moments before impact. The cab of my truck literally bent around my body and seat that I was firmly seatbelted into. Many bystanders later commented on the miracle of my survival. I arrived at the hospital nearly 3 hours after my ill-fated decision. 2 hard-fought months of mental and physical repair later, I made full recovery from a major concussion, slightly fractured bones, some stitches, and a month's worth of physical therapy. With all that time off, I had plenty of opportunity for some soul searching and pondering. I soon understood that I had completely allowed my fears of my job and my supposed poor reputation to overshadow my faith and power of protection from the Holy Ghost. My moment of epiphany came in an enlightened flash of comprehension during one of the darkest nights of my life. A powerful lesson of faith and truth expressed to me through the influence of the Holy Ghost now serves as a light of hope and conviction in an uncertain time of spiritual darkness. I learned to never be fearful of whispers in the dark again.